Commander Jake Sullivan stood in the control room of Earth's space station, watching the massive alien ship through the thick glass windows. The ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It looked like a dark metal mountain floating in space with strange lights blinking along its surface. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The alien ship had appeared 3 days ago, just beyond the moon. It came without warning, dropping out of empty space like a ghost becoming real. Earth's satellites had detected nothing until the moment it was already there. The ship was so large that it blocked out stars when it moved. Admiral Lisa Parker walked up beside Jake. She was the highest-ranking military officer on Earth, a woman who had fought in every major conflict of the past 15 years. Her face was calm, but Jake could see worry in her eyes. She had been in meetings with world leaders for the past 2 days, trying to figure out what to do. "Any word from the aliens?" Jake asked. "They're calling us in 10 minutes, Lisa said. "The president wants you to be there when they make contact." Jake nodded. He had been chosen to represent Earth's military because he understood both strategy and diplomacy. The aliens had been silent since their arrival, just sitting there like a sleeping giant. But everyone knew they were watching, studying, waiting for something. The communication came exactly on time. The main screen in the control room flickered to life, showing the face of an alien unlike anything in Earth's movies or books. The creature had gray skin that looked like stone, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its head. Its mouth was just a thin line, and it had no nose that Jake could see. "I am Commander Vexstar of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the alien said. Its voice was cold and mechanical, coming through a translation device. "You are the species known as humans." "I am Admiral Lisa Parker, representing Earth," Lisa replied. "We welcome contact with your empire." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, like lights turning on and off. "Welcome is not the correct word. You have been selected for integration into our empire. This is not a negotiation." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had hoped the aliens were explorers or traders, not conquerors. Lisa kept her face steady, but he saw her hands tighten into fists. "What does integration mean?" Lisa asked. "Complete surrender of your military forces. Complete surrender of your government. Complete surrender of your planet and all humans living on it. You will become workers in our empire, nothing more." The alien's words hit the room like a physical blow. Jake looked around at the other officers and scientists in the control room. Some looked angry, others looked scared. Dr. Nathan Bell, Earth's top expert on alien life, was taking notes on a tablet, his face focused and serious. "And if we refuse?" Lisa asked. "Then your species will be eliminated. Your planet will be cleared and given to a more useful species. We have done this 847 times before. Every world we have visited has made the same choice you will make." Commander Vexstar's image changed, showing space battles above other planets. Jake watched ships explode in brilliant flashes of light. He saw cities burning on alien worlds. He saw creatures that might have been families running from weapons that turned them to dust. "You have 72 hours to decide," the alien continued. "Surrender completely or face complete destruction. These are your only options." The screen went black. The control room was silent except for the hum of machines and the sound of people breathing. Jake felt like he had been punched in the chest. 72 hours to decide the fate of the entire human race. Dr. Nathan Bell broke the silence. "Did everyone see how they talked about us? They called us barely sentient creatures in their internal communications. I've been listening to their transmissions for 3 days. What else did you learn?" Lisa asked. "They think we're primitive. They scanned our satellites and ships and decided we're not worth their time as warriors. They see us as animals that happen to learn how to use tools." Captain Ryan Torres, the commander of Earth's defense fleet, shook his head. "Our weapons can't even scratch their shields. I've run every simulation. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." "Maybe that's what they want us to think," Jake said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Jake walked to the window and stared out at the alien ship. They've conquered 847 worlds. They have a system. They show up, they scare the locals, they give them 3 days to surrender. It works every time because everyone gives up before the fight even starts. But Jake, Ryan said, their weapons really are more advanced. I've seen the scans. There. Ship weapons, yes, but did they scan everything? Did they look underground? Did they check the ocean floors? Did they find all our secret projects? Lisa's eyes widened. You're thinking about the black sites. Jake nodded. I'm thinking about everything we've built in secret. Everything we've hidden. Everything we've been working on that officially doesn't exist. For the past 50 years, Earth's governments had been preparing for the possibility of alien contact. Most people thought this meant peaceful meetings and trade agreements. But military planners had prepared for the worst-case scenario. Deep underground, in places that didn't appear on any map, scientists and engineers had been working on weapons and technologies that broke every international treaty. Dr. Amy Carter's laboratory was buried 2 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. She had been working on quantum weapons that could phase through any known material. The project was so dangerous that only 12 people on Earth knew it existed. Colonel Ben Harris commanded resistance networks in every major city. These weren't just hiding places, but complete underground civilizations with their own power sources, factories, and communication systems. They had been built during the Cold War and expanded every decade since. Lieutenant Kate Morgan was the test pilot for experimental fighters that used engines based on theories most scientists said were impossible. The ships could bend space around them, making them faster than anything that followed normal physics. General Paul Davis oversaw Project Prometheus, a network of weapons satellites disguised as space junk. They had been floating in Earth's orbit for 10 years, waiting for the day they might be needed. Their power sources alone violated 17 different treaties about weapons in space. The aliens think they know everything about us, Jake said. They scanned our surface technology and decided we're helpless. But they don't know about the real military. The one we've been hiding underground for decades. Lisa smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. They're about to learn that humans are very good at 2 things: hiding our true capabilities and fighting dirty when we have to. Dr. Nathan Bell looked up from his tablet. I've been analyzing their communications. They're not just arrogant, they're completely convinced this will be easy. They're already planning how to divide up Earth's resources. Good, Jake said. Arrogant enemies make mistakes. And we're going to make them pay for every single one. The next 72 hours would determine whether humanity survived or died. But Jake was beginning to think the aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had threatened the wrong species. Humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years, getting better at war with each generation. Now they had a common enemy. And that enemy had no idea what was coming. The countdown had begun, but humanity wasn't planning to surrender. They were planning to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened Earth. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that some species were too dangerous to conquer outside the window. The alien ship continued its silent watch, waiting for humanity's surrender. But deep beneath the Earth's surface, in hidden bases and secret laboratories, the real human military was preparing for war. 2 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amy Carter worked in a laboratory that officially did not exist. The room was carved from solid rock and lined with metal that could stop any known radiation. She had been working here for 15 years, and in all that time, only 11 other people had ever seen the inside of Lab 7. Amy stared at the weapon on her workbench. It looked like a simple metal tube, no bigger than a flashlight. But this small device could do something that every other species in the galaxy said was impossible. It could make solid matter become like air for a few seconds. The quantum phase weapon worked by changing the way atoms related to each other. Amy had discovered that if you hit matter with the right kind of energy pulse, you could make it exist in 2 places at once. This meant bullets could pass through armor as if it wasn't there. It meant ships could fly through walls. It meant the laws of physics became suggestions instead of rules. Dr. Carter, a voice said through the speaker in the wall. Colonel Harris is here to see you. Amy looked up from her work. Colonel Ben Harris was one of the few people who knew about her project. He commanded the resistance networks that would use our weapons when the time came. She pressed a button to open the heavy door. Ben walked into the lab wearing his dress uniform. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of combat. His face was serious, but Amy could see excitement in his eyes. Is it ready? He asked. The prototype works, Amy said. But I need more time to make enough weapons for your people. Time is something we don't have. The aliens gave us 3 days. We have 36 hours left, Amy nodded. She had been working without sleep since the aliens arrived. Her coffee cup was empty, and she couldn't remember the last time she had eaten, but the weapon was almost finished. How many people are in the underground cities now? She asked. 12 million and counting, Ben said. Every major city is evacuating. Into the bunkers. The aliens think people are panicking and preparing to surrender. They don't know we're moving our real population to safety. The evacuation had been planned for decades. Under every major city on Earth, massive underground complexes waited empty and ready. They had power plants, farms, factories, and everything. Needed to keep millions of people alive for years. The aliens watching from space saw crowds of people moving around, but they didn't understand what they were really seeing. What about the other projects? Amy asked. Kate's fighters are ready. Paul's satellites are in position. Ryan's fleet is hidden on the dark side of the moon. We just need your weapons to make it all work. Amy picked up the metal tube from her workbench. This can phase through their shields, but someone has to get close enough to use it. Leave that to us, Ben said. You just make sure it works when we need it. 500 miles away, Lieutenant Kate Morgan sat in the cockpit of a fighter that looked like it was built from spare parts. The ship was small and ugly, with metal plates welded together and wires running along the outside. But hidden inside was an engine that could bend space itself. Kate had been testing the quantum displacement drive for 2 years. The engine worked by creating a bubble of twisted space around the ship. Inside the bubble, the ship could move through solid matter as if it was empty air. The technology was so dangerous that 3 test pilots had died learning how to use it. Control, this is Ghost 1, Kate said into her radio. Beginning test run 17. Copy Ghost 1, all systems green. Kate pushed the throttle forward. The ship moved away from the hidden base carved into the ocean floor. Above her, she could see the alien ship through the water. A dark shape blocking out the sun. She activated the displacement drive. The world around her changed. The water became like thick air, and she could see through it to the ocean floor below. Fish swam past her ship like ghosts, their bodies flickering in and out of existence. Kate pushed the ship up through the water, through the ocean floor, through miles of rock and dirt. She emerged into space directly underneath the alien ship. The massive hull stretched out above her like a metal sky. She could see weapons and shield generators covering every surface. Control, I'm directly under the enemy ship. They can't see me. Copy Ghost 1, how does it look? Kate studied the alien hull. Her instruments showed weak points where the ship's armor was thinner. She could see energy conduits running along the surface, carrying power to the weapons. With Amy's phase weapons, she could fly inside the ship and plant charges wherever she wanted. It looks like a target, she said. General Paul Davis stood in a command center that looked like it was built in the 1960s. The walls were covered with old computer screens and metal panels with switches and dials. But behind the old-fashioned appearance, this room controlled the most advanced weapon system ever created. Paul walked to a large screen showing Earth's orbit. To anyone watching, space around the planet looked normal. Satellites moved in their regular patterns. Old rocket stages drifted slowly through the void. Pieces of space junk floated where they had been for decades, but Paul knew the truth. Half of those objects were weapons. Status report, he said to the technician at the main console. All Prometheus units are online and ready. We have 847 platforms in position. Each one is locked onto a different part of the enemy ship. Paul smiled. Project Prometheus had been his idea 20 years ago. Instead of building obvious weapons that enemies could see and destroy, they had disguised their arsenal as space junk. Old satellites had been gutted and filled with antimatter warheads. Rocket stages had been converted into kinetic kill vehicles. Even pieces of debris had been equipped with small engines and guidance systems. The aliens had scanned everything in Earth's orbit when they arrived, but they had dismissed most of it as harmless junk. They had no idea that they were surrounded by enough firepower to destroy their entire fleet. "Sir," the technician said, "we're getting a message from the enemy ship." Paul activated the communication system. The alien commander's face appeared on the screen, the same gray creature with 4 eyes that had delivered the ultimatum. "Humans," the alien said, "we see that your population is moving to underground shelters. This is a wise choice. When you surrender, you will already be in the facilities where you will live and work for our empire." Paul didn't reply. He just watched the alien's confident expression. "We also see that some of your military ships have left their bases," the alien continued. "Do not think you can hide from us. We know where every one of your vessels is located. They will be destroyed if you do not surrender." The screen went black. Paul laughed quietly. The aliens thought they knew where Earth's fleet was, but they were looking at decoys. Captain Ryan Torres had moved the real ships to the far side of the moon where they waited in the shadow of Luna's bulk. "General," the technician said, "we're getting reports from resistance cells around the world. Everyone is in position." Paul nodded. The evacuation was almost complete. 12 million people were now safely underground in facilities the aliens couldn't detect. The surface cities were empty except for holograms and automated systems designed to fool orbital scanners. "What about the other projects?" Paul asked. "Dr. Carter's weapons are being distributed to strike teams. Lieutenant Morgan's fighters are ready for launch. Colonel Harris reports that all resistance cells are prepared for coordinated action." Paul walked to the window and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the alien ship waited for humanity's surrender. The aliens thought. They had won before the battle even started. They had conquered 847 worlds using the same tactics: show up, make threats, wait for surrender, but they had never faced a species like humans. They had never faced a planet where the real military was hidden underground, where weapons were disguised as junk, where the population could disappear into prepared shelters at a moment's notice. The aliens had made a mistake. They had given humanity 3 days to prepare. They thought this was generous, a chance for the humans to accept their fate. But what they had really done was give Earth's secret military time to move into position. Paul looked at the countdown. Clock on the wall, 24 hours left. In 1 day, the aliens would expect humanity's surrender. Instead, they were going to get the biggest surprise in galactic history. The hidden arsenal of Earth was ready. The real war was about to begin. The countdown reached 0 at exactly 0800 hours. Commander Vexstar stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the blue planet below. He had conquered 847 worlds, and each one had surrendered when faced with the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Today would be no different. "Have the humans sent their surrender?" he asked his second-in-command. "No response, Commander." They remained silent. Vexstar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. This was unusual but not unexpected. Some species required a demonstration of power before they accepted their fate. He had prepared for this possibility. Begin planetary cleansing. Target their largest population centers first. Show them what happens to those who defy the Empire. The massive ship's weapons powered up. Energy readings spiked as the main cannons prepared to fire. Vexstar watched the targeting screens show New York City, London, Tokyo, and a dozen other major cities. In 10 minutes, millions of humans would be dead, and the rest would beg for mercy. "Firing in 30 seconds, the weapons officer reported. Vexstar smiled. Another world would fall today. The first blast hit New York City at precisely 0800 hours. The energy beam, powerful enough to crack a moon, struck the center of Manhattan. Buildings should have vaporized. Streets should have melted. Millions of people should have died in an instant. Instead, the beam passed through empty air. What happened? Vexstar demanded. Sir, the targets appear to be ... not there. We're reading no life signs, no heat signatures, no electromagnetic activity. Vexstar stared at the screen. The city looked normal from orbit. Buildings stood where they should. Streets ran in the correct patterns. But the energy beam had struck nothing but air. Try London, he ordered. The second blast hit London with the same result. Then Tokyo, then Moscow. Every target they struck was empty, like shooting at ghosts. Sir, the sensor officer said, his voice shaking, I'm reading massive power signatures. Coming from orbit, multiple contacts all around us. Vexstar turned to look at the tactical display. Hundreds of small objects were moving in space around his ship. They had been floating there for days, looking like harmless debris. But now they were accelerating, changing course, heading directly for his vessel. Those are weapons, he whispered, General. Paul Davis watched the main screen in his underground command center. The alien ship was firing at empty cities, wasting its energy on holograms and automated systems. Every shot they fired was one less shot they would have when the real battle began. All Prometheus units, you are cleared to engage, Paul said. Into his microphone, 847 pieces of space junk suddenly came alive. Old satellites opened to reveal antimatter warheads. Rocket stages ignited their engines and became kinetic missiles. Even small pieces of debris extended hidden weapons and targeting systems. The alien ship found itself surrounded by a cloud of death that had been floating invisibly around it for 3 days. First wave, fire, Paul ordered the kinetic missiles. Struck first. They were simple weapons, just chunks of metal moving at incredible speed. But when something hits a spaceship at 50,000 miles per hour, it doesn't matter how strong the armor is. The missiles punched through the alien hull. Like bullets through paper, the antimatter warheads came next. These were the weapons that violated every treaty Earth had ever signed. When matter and antimatter touched, they released energy equal to nuclear bombs. The explosions lit up space like tiny suns. The alien ship staggered under the assault. Its shields flickered and failed. Atmosphere vented from dozens of holes in its hull. But it was a massive vessel, built to withstand the weapons of entire fleets. It survived the first attack and began to fight back. They're targeting our platforms, the technician reported. We're losing units fast, Paul nodded. He had expected this. The space weapons were meant to damage the alien ship, not destroy it. The real attack was just beginning. Lieutenant Kate Morgan felt the displacement drive activate around her fighter. The world became strange and twisted as space bent around her ship. She could see through the hull of the alien vessel, see the corridors and rooms inside like a building made of glass. Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost 1, she said into her radio. Beginning phase insertion. Kate pushed her fighter forward, directly, into the alien ship's hull. The metal became like air as her ship passed through it. She emerged inside a huge hangar filled with alien fighters. The enemy pilots were running to their ships, but they were too slow. Kate activated Dr. Amy Carter's quantum phase weapon. The device sent out a pulse that made the alien ships exist in 2 places at once. For 3 seconds, they were both there and not there. Kate fired her normal weapons during those 3 seconds, and her bullets passed through the alien hulls. As if they were empty air, when the phase effect ended, the alien ships were full of holes. They exploded one by one, filling the hangar with fire and debris. Ghost 1 to control, Kate reported. I'm inside the enemy ship. Their internal defenses can't touch me. Captain Steve Collins led the ground assault from his position in the Colorado Mountains. His unit was equipped with weapons that had been reverse-engineered from alien technology captured over the past 30 years. Earth's governments had been shooting down alien scouts for decades, learning their secrets, preparing for this day. Alpha Team, move out, Steve ordered. His soldiers wore armor that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. They carried weapons that fired the aliens' own energy back at them. Most importantly, They moved through terrain that the aliens couldn't see or understand. The enemy had scanned Earth's surface, but they had missed the tunnel networks that connected every major military base. Steve's team moved through these hidden passages. Emerging directly beneath the alien landing parties, the first aliens to set foot on Earth found themselves surrounded by enemies they couldn't see, firing weapons they didn't understand. Steve's soldiers used the aliens' own technology against them, turning their energy shields into prisons and their weapons into bombs. "Ground teams to all units," Steve reported. "The enemy landing parties are neutralized. They can't establish a foothold." Commander Jake Sullivan coordinated the entire battle from his position in the space station. The structure looked like a normal research facility, but it was actually the command center for Earth's hidden military. From here he could see everything happening in space and on the ground. "Status report," Jake said. "Space platforms have damaged the enemy ship but can't penetrate their main armor," came the reply from General Paul Davis. "Ghost Squadron is inside the enemy vessel, causing internal damage," reported Lieutenant Kate Morgan. "Ground forces have eliminated all landing parties," said Captain Steve Collins. Jake studied the tactical display. The alien ship was hurt, but not destroyed. Its main weapons were still operational. It was time for the next phase of the attack. "All units, this is command. Execute Phase 2. Dr. Amy Carter's quantum weapons had been distributed to strike teams around the world. The small groups of soldiers now activated devices that could phase through any material. They didn't need to fight their way onto the alien ship. They could simply walk through its hull as if it wasn't there. 12 teams materialized inside the enemy vessel simultaneously. They appeared in the engine room, the bridge, the weapons control center, and other critical locations. The aliens found themselves under attack from enemies, who could walk through walls and fire bullets that passed through armor. Commander Vexstar watched his ship fall apart around him. Explosions echoed through the corridors. His weapons systems went offline one by one. His engines began to fail. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be primitive creatures with simple technology. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Sir, they're using weapons that phase through matter. Our shields and armor are useless against them." Vexstar stared at the reports flooding in from around his ship. Human soldiers were everywhere, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Their weapons ignored every defense his people had built. "Send a message to the Grand Fleet," he ordered. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcement. Tell them the humans are not what they appear to be." But it was too late. Lieutenant Kate Morgan's fighter had reached the ship's main power core. She planted an antimatter charge directly against the reactor housing, then phased back through the hull to safety. The explosion tore the alien ship apart from the inside. The massive vessel, which had seemed invincible just hours before, broke into pieces that fell burning toward Earth's atmosphere. Jake Sullivan watched the alien ship die on his main screen. The threat that had seemed so overwhelming was destroyed, scattered across space like burning debris. But he knew this was just the beginning. "Send a message to all units," he said. "Phase 1 is complete. Prepare for Phase 2. The real enemy fleet is coming." News of the Zephyrian defeat traveled across the galaxy faster than light. On 1,000 worlds, alien species who had lived under the Empire's rule for centuries heard impossible words. The mighty Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed by a primitive species called humans. Emperor Zarthal received the message in his palace on the Empire's capital world. He was twice the size of a normal Zephyrian, with skin that looked like blackle and 6 eyes instead of 4. He had ruled the galaxy for 300 years, and no species had ever dared to resist his empire. "This cannot be true," he said, crushing the communication device in his massive hand. "The reports are confirmed, my lord," his advisor said. Trembling, "Commander Vexstar's entire fleet has been destroyed. The humans used weapons we have never seen before." Zarthal stood up from his throne. He was 12 feet tall, and his presence filled the room with dark energy. "Gather the Grand Fleet. I will deal with these humans myself. No primitive species embarrasses the Zephyrian Empire and lives." Within hours, the largest military force in galactic history began moving toward Earth, 5,000 ships of every size and type, carrying weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. The Grand Fleet had never been defeated. In battle, it had never even been seriously damaged, but Earth was not waiting passively for their arrival. Captain Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of the battleship New Texas, hidden behind the dark side of the moon. Around him, Earth's real space navy prepared for the largest battle in human history. These ships looked crude compared to alien technology, but their appearances were deceiving. "Status report," Ryan said to his first officer. "All ships report. Ready for combat. The displacement drives are online. Temporal shielding is active. Singularity weapons are charged and ready." Ryan nodded. For 30 years, Earth's best scientists had been developing technologies that other species considered too dangerous to use. While aliens built their ships to be efficient and safe, humans had built theirs to win wars at any cost. "How long until the enemy arrives?" Ryan asked. 12 hours, sir." "Long-range sensors show over 5,000 ships?" Ryan smiled grimly. 5,000 alien ships against Earth's fleet of 300. The odds looked impossible, but Ryan knew something. The aliens didn't. Human ships weren't just weapons. They were controlled chaos, powered by forces that could destroy reality itself. Dr. Nathan Bell worked frantically in his laboratory, analyzing every piece of alien technology they had captured. The debris from the destroyed Zephyrian ship had given him valuable information about their weapons and defenses. "Admiral Parker," he said into his communication device, "I've found something important." Admiral Lisa Parker's voice came through the speaker. "What is it, Nathan?" "The Zephyrians have a weakness. Their ships are powered by controlled fusion reactors, but they use a specific type of magnetic field to contain the reaction. If we can disrupt those fields, their ships will destroy themselves. Can we build a weapon to do that?" "We already have one. The quantum resonance projectors we developed for mining operations. If we modify them slightly, they can send out pulses that will shatter the aliens' magnetic containment." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "How many ships can each projector affect?" "In theory, all of them. The resonance effect spreads from ship to ship like a virus. One successful hit could disable their entire fleet. Get those projectors ready, Nathan. We're going to need every advantage we can get." The Grand Fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly 12 hours later. Emperor Zarthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, a ship so large it had its own gravity. Around him, 5,000 vessels prepared for what they expected to be a quick and easy victory. "Scan the system," Zarthal ordered. "Show me these humans who think they can defy our empire." "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings throughout the system. Every asteroid, every comet, every piece of debris is showing artificial power signatures." Zarthal's 6 eyes focused on the tactical display. The entire solar system was lit up with thousands of energy sources. It looked like someone had turned every rock and ice ball into a weapon. "Impossible," he said. "No species has the resources to weaponize an entire star system." "Sir, we're also detecting ships behind the third planet's moon. Approximately 300 vessels." Zarthal laughed, a sound like metal grinding against stone. 300 ships against 5,000. "These humans are either very brave or very stupid. Orders, my lord. Destroy them all. Leave nothing alive in this system." The Grand Fleet moved forward, weapons charging. But as they entered the asteroid belt, they discovered that humanity had prepared another surprise. General Paul Davis activated the second phase of Earth's defense grid. Every asteroid between Mars and Jupiter suddenly came alive with hidden weapons. These weren't just missiles and energy cannons. These were mining charges designed to crack asteroids, now converted into weapons that could shatter spaceship hulls. "All mining stations, you are cleared to engage." Paul said. The asteroids exploded outward, sending millions of chunks of rock flying at incredible speeds. The alien ships found themselves in a meteor storm that had been artificially created just for them. Their shields could stop energy weapons, but they couldn't stop every piece of debris flying at them from all directions. "Sir, we're taking heavy damage," the alien fleet commander reported to Emperor Zarthal. "The entire asteroid belt has been turned into a weapon." "Then we go around it," Zarthal snarled. "Nothing will stop us from reaching that planet." But Captain Ryan Torres had been waiting for exactly this moment. As the alien fleet tried to bypass the asteroid belt, Earth's hidden navy struck from behind the moon. "All ships, this is Fleet Command," Ryan said. "Execute Operation Hammer." The human ships didn't look like much compared to the massive alien vessels. But when they activated their displacement drives, they became something new. Space twisted around them as they moved through dimensions the aliens didn't know existed. Lieutenant Kate Morgan led the fighter squadrons in their phase-capable ships. But this time she wasn't alone. 200 fighters moved through space like ghosts, appearing inside alien ships and disappearing before the enemy could react. "Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost Lead," Kate said. "Remember, we're not just trying to damage them. We're trying to break their spirits." The fighters phased through the hulls of the largest alien ships. Instead of planting bombs, they did something worse. They appeared on the bridges, fired a few shots to show they could kill anyone they wanted, then disappeared again. The alien crews found themselves under attack by enemies who could appear anywhere at any time. Dr. Amy Carter's quantum weapons had been installed on every human ship. Captain Steve Collins commanded a strike force equipped with personal phase generators, allowing his soldiers to walk through the hulls of enemy vessels and capture them from the inside. But the real surprise was yet to come. Dr. Nathan Bell activated his quantum resonance projectors. The devices sent out invisible pulses that traveled through space at the speed of light. When the pulses hit the alien ships, they found the exact frequency needed to disrupt the magnetic fields containing the fusion reactors. The first alien ship exploded without warning. Then the second. Then the third. The resonance effect spread from ship to ship like a plague, causing fusion reactors to go critical all across the Grand Fleet. Emperor Zarthal watched in horror as his invincible armada tore itself apart. Ships that had conquered worlds were destroying themselves. Warriors who had never known defeat were dying by the thousands. "What are they doing to us?" he demanded. "Sir, they're using our own power sources against us. Our reactors are going critical. Then shut them down." "We can't." "Sir, if we shut down the reactors, we lose all power. We'll be helpless." Zarthal realized the trap the humans had set. They had found a way to turn the aliens' greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The more powerful a Zephyrian ship was, the bigger the explosion. When its reactor failed, Admiral Lisa Parker watched the battle from Earth's orbital command center. The alien fleet was destroying itself, but there were still thousands of ships left. The human fleet was outnumbered 15-1, and the odds were getting worse as more aliens arrived. "All units, this is Admiral Parker," she said. "Execute final phase. Release the relativistic kill vehicles." On the edge of the solar system, weapons that had been accelerating for weeks finally reached their targets. These were simple devices, just chunks of metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. But when something hits you at that velocity, it doesn't matter how strong your shields are. The relativistic kill vehicles had been launched the moment the aliens appeared in the system. They had been invisible, moving too fast to track, aimed at the exact spot where the alien fleet would be when they arrived. 24 projectiles, each no bigger than a telephone pole, slammed into the center of the Grand Fleet. The explosions could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Entire squadrons of alien ships simply vanished, turned into expanding clouds of plasma and debris. Emperor Zarthal felt his flagship shudder as the shockwaves reached him. Half his fleet was gone. The other half was scattered, confused, and fighting an enemy they couldn't understand. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, retreat to the outer system." But it was too late. Captain Ryan Tor. 6 months after the Battle of Earth's solar system, the galaxy was a very different place. The Zephyrian Empire had crumbled overnight when news of Emperor Zarthal's death reached every corner of space. 847 worlds that had lived under alien rule for centuries suddenly found themselves free. Colonel Ben Harris stood on the bridge of the transport ship, Freedom, as it approached the former Zephyrian capital world. Behind him, 50 ships carried supplies, medical equipment, and construction materials. But most importantly, they carried hope to species who had forgotten what freedom looked like. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," the communications officer said. "Put it through," Ben replied. The screen flickered to life, showing an alien unlike any human had seen before. The creature had blue skin, 4 arms, and large eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. It was one of the Alteran people, the first species the Zephyrians had conquered 300 years ago. "Human ships, this is Elder Cathara of the Alteran Council. We welcome you to our world," Ben smiled. "Elder Cathara, I am Colonel Ben Harris of Earth. We come in peace, offering friendship and aid. We have heard of your victory over the Empire. Is it true that humans destroyed the entire Grand Fleet in a single battle?" "It's true. The Zephyrian Empire will never threaten anyone again." The alien's eyes grew even brighter. Then the ancient prophecies were correct. The liberators would come from a small blue world, wielding weapons of light and shadow. Ben was surprised. "You have prophecies about humans?" "Many of the conquered species do. We have waited 3 centuries for someone strong enough to break our chains." As the human ships landed on the Alteran capital, Ben saw the damage that centuries of occupation had caused. The cities were built to serve Zephyrian needs, not Alteran ones. The people looked tired and scared even though their oppressors were gone, but Ben also saw something else. In the eyes of the young Alterans, he saw the same fire that had driven humanity to fight impossible odds. Freedom was spreading across the galaxy, and it was spreading fast. Commander Jake Sullivan had been promoted to Earth's first galactic ambassador. He sat in his office on the newly constructed space station Unity, which orbited the former Imperial capital. Through his window, he could see ships from dozens of different species arriving every day. "Ambassador," his aide said, "the Trilaxian delegation is here to see you." "Send them in," Jake replied. 3 insect-like aliens entered his office. They walked on 6 legs and had compound eyes that sparkled like jewels. Their species had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for 200 years, forced to work in deep space mines. "Ambassador Sullivan," the lead Trilaxian said, "we have come to request membership in the new Galactic Council." "You don't need to request anything," Jake said. "Every free species has a place at our table." "Even species that collaborated with the Empire?" Jake leaned forward. "The Empire is dead. What matters now is what we build together." The Trilaxians' antennae twitched with what Jake had learned was a sign of relief. "The Zephyrians told us that humans were savage destroyers who would consume the galaxy. But you offer us partnership instead of conquest." "Humans fight when we have to," Jake said. "But we prefer to build. We've seen what happens when one species tries to rule all the others. We won't make that mistake." Captain Steve Collins walked through the corridors of the space station, marveling at how much had changed. 6 months ago, he had been leading ground assault teams against alien invaders. Now he commanded the new Galactic Peace Force, a military organization designed to protect smaller species from any future would-be conquerors. "Captain," one of his officers said, "we have a situation in the Outer Rim. The Korthic Syndicate is trying to claim former Zephyrian territory." Steve nodded. He had been expecting this. When a large empire collapsed, smaller predators always tried to grab what they could. The Korthic were a species of aggressive traders who used military force to expand their business interests. "How many ships do they have?" Steve asked. "About 50, sir. All armed merchant vessels. Take 20 of our ships and remind them that the galaxy has new management. But try to avoid shooting if possible. We want to be known as peacekeepers, not conquerors." "Understood, sir." Steve watched his officer leave, then returned to his work. The Galactic Peace Force was still small, only 300 ships. But those ships carried human technology, and everyone in the galaxy now knew what that meant. Dr. Amy Carter had become the most famous scientist in the galaxy. Universities on 50 worlds had offered her positions. Governments had begged her to share her quantum phase technology. But Amy had chosen to stay on Earth working in a new laboratory that was only slightly less secret than her old one. Dr. Carter, her assistant said, "You have another request for an interview. From who this time?" Amy asked, not looking up from her work. "The Galactic Science Network. They want to discuss your theories on dimensional physics." Amy sighed. "Tell them the same thing I told the others. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share freely." "But sir, don't you think other species have the right to advance their technology?" Amy looked up from her workbench. "Other species can advance all they want. But quantum phase weapons stay under human control. The galaxy has seen what happens when one group gets too much power over everyone else." The truth was that Earth scientists were still developing new weapons and technologies. The war with the Zephyrians had shown humanity that the galaxy was a dangerous place. They would share medicine, farming techniques, and peaceful technologies freely. But the weapons that had won the war remained humanity's alone. Lieutenant Kate Morgan commanded the first human colony ship to leave Earth after the war. The ship New Horizon carried 10,000 volunteers to establish a settlement on a world that had been abandoned when the Zephyrian Empire fell. "Captain," her navigator said, "we're approaching the target system." Kate looked at the main screen. The planet below was green and blue, with white clouds swirling across its surface. It looked almost like Earth, but the continents were different shapes, and there were 3 moons instead of 1. "Any signs of life?" she asked. "Primitive plant and animal life, but no intelligent species. The Zephyrians strip-mined the original inhabitants' homeworld and left it barren." Kate felt a familiar anger. Even in victory, they kept discovering new crimes the Empire had committed. But anger wouldn't help the people she was leading to their new home. "Take us down," she ordered. "Let's show the galaxy how humans build instead of destroy." The New Horizon landed in a valley next to a large river. Within hours, prefabricated buildings were rising from the ship's cargo holds. By the end of the week, the colony had power, water, and communication with Earth, but this wasn't just a human colony. Kate had brought families from 6 different species who had lost their homes to the Empire. The settlement would be a symbol of the new galaxy, where different peoples could work together instead of fighting each other. 1 year after the war ended, Admiral Lisa Parker stood before the first meeting of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 200 species had gathered on Unity Station to create a new government for the galaxy. "Fellow beings," Lisa said, addressing the assembled delegates, "we gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals seeking a better future." The audience included creatures of every imaginable shape and size. Some breathed oxygen, others required different atmospheres, some were individuals, others were hive minds. But all of them had one thing in common: they were free. The Zephyrian Empire ruled through fear, Lisa continued. They told you that only the strong deserve to survive, that the weak exist only to serve the powerful. Today we reject that philosophy. A delegate from the insectoid Clathic species raised one of her 4 arms. "Admiral Parker, how do we know that humanity won't become the new empire?" "You have the strongest military in the galaxy." Lisa had been expecting this question. "Because we've seen what happens when one species has too much power. We've designed our government to prevent any single group from controlling all the others. Humans will have 1 vote in this council, the same as everyone else." "But you have the weapons," another delegate pointed out. "Yes, we do. And we'll use them to protect any species that can't protect itself. But we won't use them to conquer or control. That's not who we are." The council voted to establish the Galactic Federation, with Earth as one member among many. Humans would provide military protection and advanced technology, but every species would govern itself according to its own traditions and values. As the delegates filed out of the council chamber, Lisa reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, humanity had been alone in the universe, facing extinction at the hands of an alien empire. Now they were part of a galactic community that spanned thousands of worlds. The victory had come at a cost. Thousands of humans had died in the war, and Earth cities were still rebuilding from the evacuation. But humanity had proved something important. They were not just survivors, but builders of a better future. In the weeks that followed, human ships began appearing throughout the galaxy. Some carried colonists to new worlds. Others carried aid to species recovering from imperial rule. And some carried weapons, ready to defend the peace that had been so hard to win.